Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Preston Nelms, and today I will be presenting my study on community perceptions and trust in law enforcement. This project brings together multiple concepts we have examined throughout the past 6700 course, including research design, legitimacy theory, measurement and operationalization, index construction, sampling methodology, and ethical issues in public sector research. Overall, my research investigates how community perceptions of fairness, transparency, ethical conduct, and accountability, what we collectively refer to as legitimacy practices, shape public trust in law enforcement and influence residents' willingness to cooperate with police. This presentation integrates everything from the CPLI index I designed to the sampling strategy critique and the methodological transformations we explored throughout the semester. Importance of the study. This study is significant for several reasons. First, trust in law enforcement plays a critical role in the functioning of a democratic society. When residents view police as legitimate actors, fair, unbiased, and transparent, they are more likely to obey the laws voluntarily, they report crimes, and they collaborate in public safety initiatives. Second, public trust cannot be assumed. It must be earned through everyday interactions. Research shows that trust is shaped much more by procedural justice, how people are treated, than by the outcomes of the encounters. Therefore, the way police conduct themselves can either build long-term cooperation or undermine it. Additionally, this study supports the broader goal of evidence-based police development by generating empirical insights into the determinants of trust. The research can inform agency reforms, training approaches, communication strategies, and organizational culture shifts. In short, this research contributes both academically by operationalizing legitimacy into measurable constructs and practically by providing guidance for improving the role of policing. Now, to furthermore on that, the implications of the study can both be academic and practical. Academically, the study strengthens the measurement of legitimacy by operationalizing it through the CPLI index and linking it to observable outcomes. It builds on legitimacy theory by testing how procedural justice, transparency, and ethical conduct predict trust. It can also have a practical implication. Practically, the findings can guide policy and organization reform. Law enforcement agencies can use insights from this research to 1. Enhance training programs focused on fairness and communication. 2. Improve transparency practices, especially after major incidents. 3. Strengthen accountability systems. 4. Increase community engagement and partnerships. And 5. Prioritize reforms that align with public expectations. Ultimately, this research contributes to building safer, more equitable communities through improved police-community relations. The goal of the study: to examine how legitimacy practices such as procedural justice, transparency, ethical conduct, and accountability shape community perceptions of law enforcement and influence the public trust and willingness to cooperate. This includes understanding not only whether these practices matter, but why they matter and how their presence or absence affects residents differently across demographic groups and neighborhood contexts. This study also seeks to understand legitimacy as a multidimensional concept rather than a single measure. Legitimacy involves how fairly people feel treated, how openly discussions are communicated, whether misconduct is addressed meaningfully, and whether police are responsive and engaged with community needs. By articulating these dimensions and measuring them using the Community Police Legitimacy Index (CPLI), this study moves legitimacy from an abstract theoretical idea into a structured empirical framework. Approach to the study. To achieve this goal, the study uses a cross-sectional survey design. This approach allows for data collection at a single point in time while still capturing the diversity of community attitudes. The instrument integrates two major components: quantitative Likert scale items, which measure perceptions of trust, fairness, transparency, and cooperation along ordinal scales, and qualitative open-ended responses, which allow residents to describe personal experiences, concerns, and interactions with law enforcement in their own words. This method approach enhances both breadth and depth The quantitative data allows for statistical comparisons, correlations, and potential regression analysis, while the qualitative data enriches interpretation by adding nuance and context that numbers alone cannot capture. This design mirrors many methodological principles we studied, including validity, reliability, measurement precision, and the value of triangulating data sources to strengthen overall conclusions. The research module illustrates what is impacted. This research affects three major stakeholder groups. The first one is community residents. Residents' trust, willingness to cooperate, and perceptions of legitimacy are directly shaped by fairness, transparency, ethical conduct, and accountability. Communities with positive perceptions are more likely to report crimes, serve as witnesses, support investigations, and engage in collaborative safety initiatives. Communities with negative perceptions often disengage, distrust police, or avoid involvement altogether. Number two is law enforcement officers. Public perceptions influence how effectively officers can do their jobs. When trust is high, officers gain cooperation. Communication is smoother and problem solving is more effective. When trust is low, even routine interactions become tense. Information sharing decreases and community-based policing becomes significantly more difficult. Number three, neighborhood safety and community well-being. Neighborhoods with strong trust in police experience higher crime reporting, greater cooperation, and more positive relationships between residents and officers. Controversially, distrust can undermine safety, widen social dividers, and contribute to long-term legitimacy crisis. Together, these impacts highlight the importance of understanding and strengthening legitimacy practices. In this study, the independent variables include perceived fairness, whether residents believe officers enforce laws consistently and prospectively; transparency, the clarity and openness of communication and decision making; ethical conduct and accountability, perceptions of whether misconduct is addressed meaningfully; Community Police Legitimacy Index, CPLI, a 16-item index capturing procedural justice, transparency, ethical conduct, and partnerships; demographic controls such as age, race, and ethnicity, gender or income, and neighborhood arrest rate. The dependent variables are trust in the police and willingness to cooperate with investigations and safety initiatives. Structuring variables in this way allows the study to test meaningful hypotheses and develop an analytical model grounded in legitimacy theory. Critical factors influencing public trust. There's three factors emerged as the most critical in shaping public trust. The first one is procedural justice. Procedural justice refers to fair, respectful, unbiased treatment. It is the most influential component of legitimacy. Even when outcomes are unfavorable, people are far more accepting if they believe the process was fair. Number two, transparency and accountability. Residents care deeply about whether police are open about decisions, willingness to explain their actions, and committed to addressing misconduct. Transparency demonstrates integrity, and accountability reassuring the public that police departments hold their officers to consistent standards. Number three, ethical conduct. Ethical behavior, responsiveness, and genuine community engagement strengthen trust. Communities want to see officers who serve as ethical actors, not just enforcers, capable of building relationships rather than merely reacting to incidents. These factors are embedded throughout the CPLI index and form the core of legitimacy. Identifying core obstacles. The first one is distrust of law enforcement and institutions, a major obstacle for individuals with past negative experiences or those living in communities with high arrest rates. Number two, privacy and confidentiality concerns. Individuals may worry that critical responses could make them targets for retaliation or alter their relationship with law enforcement. Number three, survey fatigue and low motivation. Individuals may ignore surveys due to time constraints or lack of interest. Another core obstacle is the language and literacy barriers. Non-English speakers or individuals with lower literacy levels may not be able to complete the survey easily. These barriers reflect major issues in the research design, including non-response bias, coverage error, and threats to external validity. In conclusion, legitimacy practices play a central role in shaping trust and cooperation between communities and law enforcement. When residents perceive police as fair, transparent, ethical, and accountable, they are far more likely to trust officers and voluntarily collaborate in public safety efforts. This study reinforces the idea that legitimacy is not just an abstract concept, it is a measurable, influential driver of community well being and long term public safety. Strengthening legitimacy builds stronger communities, fosters mutual respect, and enhances the effectiveness of law enforcement across diverse neighborhoods. I want to thank you for your time and attention to my PowerPoint presentation. I appreciate the opportunity to share this work, and I look forward to any questions, feedback, or recommendations you may have. Feedback will not only strengthen this project, but also deepen my understanding of the complex relationship between legitimacy, trust, and public safety.